Clara Bennett collapsed onto the frozen bench. Her nurse's bag clutched against her chest like a shield. The train's whistle faded into the Wyoming night. Gone. The last train west, and with it, her last hope. Her fingers were loosening feeling. She didn't know if that was mercy or cruelty. December 1887 had teeth. The wind off the mountains bit through her wool coat, the good one from Philadelphia. Now worthless against frontier cold, snow began to fall. Soft at first, then harder. The station's single oil lamp flickered like a dying heartbeat. She tried to stand. Her legs buckled. This was how it ended. Then, not in a hospital where she belonged, but on a forgotten platform in the middle of nowhere. Ticket stolen. Money gone. Pride all she had left, and pride couldn't start a fire. Hoofbeats broke through the wind. Clara looked up through the snow. A rider, tall in the saddle, dark coat dusted white. He reined in his horse, a massive bay that snorted steam into the frozen air. The man dismounted, moved toward her with deliberate steps. "Station's closed," Clara said, hating how her voice shook. "I can see that." His voice was deep. "Careful. You waiting for someone?" "The train. It left. Last one went an hour ago." "I know." He stood there, studying her. She could barely make out his face in the lamplight weathered. Maybe 35. Eyes that had seen things. Money in the cut of his coat. "I don't need pity," she said. "Good. I don't give any." He held out his hand. "But I won't leave you to freeze either." Clara looked at his hand, looked at the empty darkness behind him, looked at her own hands, blue-tinged in the lamplight. She took his hand. He pulled her up with surprising gentleness, steadied her when she swayed. Up close, he smelled like leather and pine and something indefinable safety. Maybe, though she'd stopped believing in that. "James Coleman," he said. "People call me Cole. Clara Bennett." He lifted her onto his horse like she weighed nothing, swung up behind her. His coat came around her shoulders without asking. As they rode into the dark mountains, Clara looked back once. The empty station disappeared into the snow. Everything she'd been running toward vanished, but the warmth at her back was real. She allowed herself to lean into it. Just this once, Clara woke to firelight and the smell of coffee. For one confused moment, she was back in the hospital dormitory. Then she saw the bearskin rug, the rough-hewn ceiling beams, and remembered. The cowboy, the ride through darkness, strong arms lifting her down. She sat up fast, too fast. The room tilted. "Easy." His voice came from the doorway. "Cole." That was his name. He held a tin cup. "You were hypothermic." Another hour and he stopped. "Coffee." Clara took inventory. Still dressed. Boots beside the cot. Medical bag on the table untouched. One-room cabin. Stone fireplace. Window showing pre-dawn gray. "Where am I?" "Foreman's cabin on my ranch. Moses retired, but I kept it maintained." "You're safe." Safe. That word again. She accepted the coffee. Let the heat seep into her palms. "I'll be gone by morning." It is morning. Next train. Then, 3 days. 3 days. Clara's chest tightened. 3 days of charity, of owing, of being the pitied woman who, "I'll work for room and board," she said. "I'm a surgical nurse. Your ranch hands get injured. I can help." Cole leaned against the doorframe. You don't have to. I'm not a charity case. Mr. Coleman. Something shifted in his expression. Respect. Maybe just Cole. And if you're offering, I won't refuse. This ranch is dangerous work. As if summoned, shouting erupted outside. Cole moved fast. Clara grabbed her bag, followed. The scene was chaos. 3 ranch hands struggling to hold down a 4th. Pablo, someone yelled, caught his arm on barbed wire. Blood soaked his sleeve, dripped into the frozen mud. Clara didn't ask permission. She knelt, opened her bag, took control. Hold him still. Someone get me clean water. She pointed at Cole. Whiskey. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency. Cut away the sleeve. Assess the damage, deep laceration, but no arterial bleeding. She cleaned, sutured, wrapped. 12 minutes start to finish. Pablo's breathing steadied. The other men stared. Clara stood, wiped her hands on her skirt, met Cole's eyes. 3 days, he said quietly. You work. You stay. No charity. No charity. She agreed. That evening, an old man arrived at the cabin. Gray beard, kind eyes, weathered hands. Moses. He looked at Clara through the window, then at Cole on the porch. Boss, the town's gonna talk. A woman that pretty, that young, staying here. Cole's voice was flat. They always do. But his hand gripped the porch rail so tight his knuckles went white. Inside, Clara pretended not to hear. She'd heard it all before. In Philadelphia, the whispers had destroyed her. She wouldn't let them destroy her again. The buckboard creaked to a stop in front of Harmon's General Store. Clara had forgotten what it felt like to be watched by dozens of eyes at once. No, she remembered. That's why she'd run west. Redemption. Wyoming wasn't much. False front buildings. Frozen mud streets. Mountains looming like judgments. But it had everything Philadelphia had. People. Gossip. Conclusions drawn before facts were known. Cole helped her down. You need a proper coat. Boots, too. If you're staying, I can't afford. Consider it wages. He was already inside before she could argue. The store smelled like dried goods and wood smoke. Mrs. Harmon, the proprietor, smiled too widely, eyes calculating. Mr. Coleman, how lovely. And this must be your guest. Miss Bennett works for me, Cole said evenly. She needs outfitting. He held up a heavy wool coat, deep blue. Well made. Clara touched it, hesitated. Taking things felt like sinking. The bell over the door chimed. Mrs. Eleanor Harris swept in like winter herself. 50s. Expensive dress. Eyes sharp as ice picks. The banker's wife. The town's self-appointed moral authority. James Coleman, she said, voice carrying. How generous of you to take in strays. Though one does wonder what services she's provided in exchange. The store went silent. Clara's face burned. Here it was. Philadelphia all over again. Different town. Same cruelty. Cole could stay silent. Could let it pass. Could. He stepped beside Clara. His hand rested briefly on her shoulder, a claiming gesture in frontier terms. Clara realized. Public. Deliberate. Miss Bennett is a skilled surgical nurse, he said. She saved my ranch hand's arm yesterday. My ranch is safer with her there. He turned to Mrs. Harris directly. Your husband's bank nearly foreclosed on the Johnsons last month, over $50. Glass houses. Eleanor. Mrs. Harris's face reddened, but she was too practiced for outright confrontation. Really? Mr. Coleman. People will talk. Let them. Cole paid for the coat, handed it to Clara. I've got work to do. Outside, Clara breathed hard. Snow began falling again, always snow. Endless and cold. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. I'm leaving in 2 days anyway. Cole loaded supplies into the wagon. Long pause. Too long. What if you didn't? Clara looked at him. Really looked. Saw something in his eyes that terrified her hope. The kind that got crushed. What are you saying? He didn't answer. The train station was visible in the distance, its platform empty and accusing. Neither of them moved toward it. 1 more week. Clara heard herself say, just to be sure Pablo's arm heals properly. Cole nodded once. 1 more week. But they both knew it was a lie. The kind you tell yourself before you let someone matter. 2 weeks became 3. Clara told herself it was professional responsibility. Pablo's wound healed clean, but there were others: a broken finger, a horse kick to the ribs, a fever that needed watching. She told herself it wasn't about the way Cole looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching. January froze the world solid. The mare was dying. Cole knew it the moment he walked into the barn and saw Sable lying on her side, breathing shallow. Clara was already there, kneeling in the straw, hands gentle on the horse's distended belly. Twisted intestine, Clara said. Without surgery, she'll be dead by morning. Cole's face went stone. Sable had been Sarah's horse, his wedding gift to his wife. 7 years ago, one of the last things he had left. Can you save her? I can try, but I've never operated on a horse. I need you to hold the lantern. Keep it steady. 2 hours. Cole watched Clara's hands move steady, confident, merciful. Blood and sweat and absolute focus. She worked like someone who'd made peace with impossible choices. The mare lived. Dawn broke gray and cold. They sat outside the barn, exhausted. Steam rose from their coffee in the frozen air. Cole spoke first. My wife Sarah died 3 years ago. Consumption. The doctor didn't arrive in time. Clara said nothing. Waiting. I keep thinking if I'd ridden harder to fetch him, if I'd known sooner, if his voice cracked, I couldn't save her. You can't carry that, Clara said quietly. Can't I? She looked at him. I made the right medical choice in Philadelphia. I chose the man who could survive over the one who couldn't. The poor man over the councilman's son. It was right. She paused. But right doesn't pay rent or buy respect. I lost everything. You saved a life. So did you. Just now, you held the light steady for 2 hours. You saved Sable because you trusted me. Cole was quiet for a long time. Then, Clara, why did you really run west? Because I'm tired of being punished for doing good. He understood. She saw it in his eyes. Later, Moses found Cole fixing the cabin window, adding a bookshelf, carrying extra firewood inside. You're courting her, Moses said. I'm making repairs. Sure you are, boss. Moses grinned. That woman's got a spine of steel and a heart she's afraid to use. Don't waste this. Cole said nothing. But that night, Clara watched from her window as he walked toward the main house. He stopped halfway, turned, looked back at her lit window, stood there a full minute, then continued on. Clara's hand touched the cold glass. The loneliness was worse now because she knew what it felt like to almost not be lonely. The blizzard hit at dusk, turning the world white in minutes. Cole had come to secure the cabin shutters. Got caught. Now he stood by the door, snow-covered, looking trapped. You can't leave, Clara said. Visibility's 0. You'll die before you reach the main house. I shouldn't. Stay. She met his eyes. Propriety can go to hell. I'm not letting you freeze. They sat on opposite sides of the fire, the space between them charged with everything unsaid. Wind howled like wolves. The cabin creaked and groaned. I haven't visited Sarah's grave in 6 months, Cole said suddenly. Feels like betrayal. Clara poked the fire. She'd want you to live. That's not betrayal. That's honoring her love. How do you know? Because I'd want the same. If I loved someone, I'd want them to survive me, to find joy again. Her voice softened. You're allowed to heal. Cole stared at the fire. I don't know if I remember how. Neither do I. The temperature dropped. Fire wasn't enough. Clara made the decision. Survival dictated it. She told herself. Just survival. She moved beside him, wrapped them both in blankets. Cole's arm came around her shoulders. Hesitant. Careful. Her head fit perfectly in the hollow of his shoulder. They sat like that for an hour. 2. Not speaking. Just breathing together. Clara. She looked up. His eyes asked permission. Hers gave it. The kiss was gentle, tentative. 2 people afraid to break. When they pulled back, both were shaking and not from cold. I don't know how to do this again, Cole whispered. Neither do I. So we'll figure it out together. Or fail together. I'm not planning on failing. They slept wrapped in each other, the fire burning low, the storm raging outside. Morning came clear and brutal. Cole prepared to leave. They hadn't spoken about the kiss. Couldn't. Maybe. Words would make it real. And real could be destroyed. At the door, Clara said, This can't happen again. Not unless you're prepared for what the town will do. Cole turned. I'm prepared. But his hand trembled on the door handle. Outside, in the distance, a figure on horseback watched through the trees. Mrs. Harris's stable boy, delivering supplies after the storm. He'd seen Cole leave the cabin, seen how long he'd stayed. The boy turned his horse toward town. The secret was out. Clara stood at the front of Redemption Church, 20 pairs of eyes boring into her like nails. She'd been summoned. Town meeting. Urgent. When she arrived, they were waiting. Reverend Thompson's face was sympathetic, which was worse than contempt. Sympathy meant pity. Mrs. Harris stood front and center, righteous fury wrapped in silk. We're concerned, the Reverend began, for your welfare, Miss Bennett, and for the moral character of our community. Concerned, Clara repeated flatly. You've been living on Mr. Coleman's property for over a month, Mrs. Harris said. Alone, unwed. People have seen. What have they seen? Impropriety. A woman of your situation. Taking advantage of a grief-stricken widower. Taking advantage. Clara's voice cut like a scalpel. I've set bones, delivered babies, saved lives, including your cattle hand, Mrs. Harris, when he had pneumonia. What exactly am I taking advantage of? Your personal life is your concern, Reverend Thompson said gently. But when it affects the community's moral fabric, my personal life is my own. Clara interrupted. I've harmed no one. The church doors opened. Thomas Coleman strode in Cole's younger brother. Slick suit. Ambitious eyes. He'd been in Denver for weeks. His timing was suspiciously perfect. Miss Bennett, Thomas said smoothly. I'm afraid this situation has become untenable. My brother's grief has clouded his judgment. For everyone's sake, you'll need to leave the Coleman property by week's end. Clara's face went white. Cole knows about this. I'm the co-owner of the ranch. I have authority. The doors opened again. Cole. He took in the scene instantly. Clara surrounded. Thomas playing judge. The whole town watching. His eyes met Clara's. 1 second. 2. He hesitated. Clara saw it. Saw him calculate the cost, his reputation, his brother's approval, the town's judgment. Saw him falter. That was all she needed. She walked toward the door, head high, past Cole without looking at him. Clara, don't. She disappeared into the winter afternoon. Cole stood frozen. The church watched. Thomas smirked. You did the right thing, brother. Cole didn't answer. He walked out, got on his horse, rode to the cabin. Empty. Her medical bag gone. The coat he'd bought her folded on the cot, left behind like a returned gift. Moses found him there an hour later, sitting in the dark. You hesitated, Moses said quietly. In that room. You hesitated. She saw, for the first time since Sarah died. Cole wept. Clara's hands were raw from washing dishes in the saloon's kitchen. 2 weeks in redemption proper, living in a boarding house that smelled like mildew and broken dreams. The town kept its distance polite enough, but cold. She was marked now. At least no one could accuse her of impropriety. At least she was alone, like she was meant to be. The scream came from outside the saloon. Clara ran. Emma Harris, 16 years old, collapsed on the boardwalk, clutching her side, face gray with pain. Appendicitis. Get her inside, Clara commanded. Mrs. Harris arrived in minutes, took one look at her daughter, at Clara. What's wrong with her? Appendicitis. I need to operate now, or she dies. You're not a doctor. I'm all you have. Choose. Mrs. Harris looked at her daughter's gray face, nodded once. Clara operated on the saloon's kitchen table. Whiskey for anesthetic. A butcher knife she sterilized in boiling water. 2 saloon girls held the lantern steady. 30 agonizing minutes. The girl lived. Mrs. Harris sat with Emma afterward, holding her hand. Clara cleaned blood from her arms. Packed her bag. Thank you, Mrs. Harris said without looking at her. She needs rest. Watch for fever. Clara walked out. No payment. No credit. Just the work. Just like Philadelphia. At the Coleman Ranch, Cole was falling apart. He didn't shave. Didn't eat. The ranch hands exchanged worried looks. Thomas kept pushing. Sell the ranch. Start over. Forget the nurse. Cole rode to Sarah's grave drunk. I'm sorry. He told the headstone. Sorry I'm such a coward. You deserved better. Clara deserved, his voice broke. I did it again. I failed again. Moses found him there. Your wife died. Boss. That was tragedy. But you're alive. And you're choosing death anyway. That's just waste. What if I lose her too? You already did. Moses gripped his shoulder. But maybe she'd let you earn her back. Sunday morning. Cole rode into town. Moses handed him Clara's coat. Go get her. Snow began to fall. Cole walked toward the church doors. Inside. Hymns. Outside. His heart hammering. He pushed the doors open mid-verse. Cole Coleman walked down the center aisle like a man walking to his own hanging. Every head turned. The hymn died. Reverend Thompson stopped speaking. Mouth open. In the back corner. Clara looked up. Her heart leaped. Traitor. I need to say something, Cole said. You can listen, or you can throw me out. But I'm saying it. No one moved. 2 weeks ago, I stood silent when this town judged Clara Bennett. I hesitated when she needed courage. I was afraid of losing again. Afraid of gossip. Afraid of being seen as foolish. He looked directly at Clara. But you want to judge someone's morality. Judge mine. Clara saved Sable when no one else could. She saved Emma Harris last week, operated in a saloon kitchen without payment. In Philadelphia, she lost her career because she chose to save a poor man's life over a rich man's son. Mrs. Harris shifted uncomfortably. She's the best person I know, and I was too much of a coward to say it when it mattered. Cole walked toward Clara. Miss Bennett, I'm standing here in front of everyone who hurt you and asking, will you marry me? Not to make you respectable, but because I don't want to spend another day pretending I can live without you. Silence. Complete. Suffocating silence. Clara stood slowly. Walked down the aisle. Every eye followed. She stopped in front of him. You hesitated before. I did. I won't again. Not ever. Then yes. The church erupted gasps, whispers, shocked exclamations. Moses stood. I stand with them. Pablo stood. Me too. One by one, ranch hands stood. Then Mr. Harmon. Then, slowly, reluctantly, Mrs. Harris nodded once. Defeat, but also acceptance. Reverend Thompson cleared his throat. Well, I suppose we could do this wedding right now. If you're both certain. Clara laughed, first genuine laugh in weeks. Right now works. The Reverend married them on the spot. No flowers. No fancy dress. Just two broken people choosing each other in front of everyone who tried to tear them apart. As Cole kissed his bride, someone began clapping. Then another. Then the whole church. Even Mrs. Harris. Barely. Begrudgingly. Clara whispered. This is insane. Cole smiled. Welcome to marriage. Outside, snow fell soft and clean. The mountains stood witness, and for the first time in 3 years, Cole felt warm. April came to Wyoming like a promise kept. The cabin, no longer really a cabin, stood with new walls, new windows, a real porch. Wildflowers Clara planted bloomed purple and gold around the foundation. Inside, the smell of fresh bread mixed with wood smoke. This was what home smelled like. Clara ran a small clinic from the added room. Everyone welcome. The town called her Dr. Coleman now, and she didn't correct them. Respect was respect, however it came. Thomas had left for Denver, never reconciled. Moses lived in the main house, helped Cole run the ranch. The land prospered. Mrs. Harris visited one afternoon, stiff but genuine, brought preserves. Thank you for saving Emma. I should have said it then. Clara nodded. You're saying it now. That's enough. Some things didn't need full redemption. Just acknowledgement. Evening. Clara stood on the porch, hand on her pregnant belly, 6 months along. The baby kicked, strong and insistent. Cole came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her. They looked out over the land, the barn where Sable grazed with her new foal. The fields gone green, mountains purple in the distance. You know what I realized? Clara said. I spent so long running from judgment. I forgot to build toward anything. And now I'm building everything. The coat hung by the door, the one Cole had bought her that first week, waiting for the child who'd wear it someday. A hand-me-down hope. The sun set gold over the Wyoming frontier. Somewhere in town, the train whistle blew, the same train that had left Clara behind 6 months ago. But she didn't turn her head, didn't even notice. She was already where she belonged. Moses walked out of the barn, tipped his hat to them, smiling. In the distance, a wolf howled, not threatening, just singing to the spring moon. Cole whispered, "Welcome home, Mrs. Coleman." Clara's hand rested on her belly, feeling new life move beneath her palm. She looked at the wildflower's beauty growing from hard ground, roots deep, blooming despite the winter that came before. I've been home for a while now. The mountains turned purple with twilight. Somewhere, a night bird called. The land breathed, alive and healing. And in a small house on the frontier, 2 people who'd survived their separate darknesses stood together, watching their future bloom.